Today I'm going to be ranking the biggest and best sneaker trends of 2023 to see if they are going to be gone in a few months or if they are here to stay for years to come. We are going to be using a standard tier list. S tier is the best, D tier is the lowest. Use this as a guide for shoes that you should maybe invest in for the end of the year or for 2024. So let's jump into the first sneaker. Okay, so let's start off with possibly the biggest sneaker of the entire year, which is the Adidas Samba, of course. Now here's the deal with this shoe. This shoe has been around since the 1940s, okay? It is known as an indoor soccer shoe, but over the past few years, right, it has popped up in popularity, so much so that they're actually very difficult to get right now for retail. If you go on the Adidas website, a lot of the best, their most common popular sizes are actually sold out. But here's the deal with the Adidas Samba and all of Adidas shoes that have been popular recently. They all follow the same formula, right, which is that it's a simple base shoe and it has contrasting Adidas stripes along the side with a very slim and narrow silhouette, okay? And a lot of these shoes have been here for a very long time, whether it is the Adidas Spezial, the Adidas Gazelle, the Adidas Gazelle Indoor, the Adidas Campus 2000, right? So a lot of these shoes follow the same blueprint, and so for that reason, I don't think that this is necessarily a shoe that has emerged recently or is that it's gonna go away in the next few months. Okay, maybe the keyword term Samba is, but I think that slim Adidas silhouette with contrasting vertical stripes along the side is going to be here to stay for a while. Think of the Adidas Superstars. Adidas Superstar is a shoe that's never really gone out of style. You can wear that right now and nobody would blink an eye. So for that reason, I'm putting the Adidas Samba in the S tier, but rest assured, the Adidas Samba is representing all of those narrow silhouette Adidas models with a solid color and vertical stripes. So for that reason, it's going in the S tier. Next up, we have the early 2000s runner. Okay, we're talking about the Nike Vomero, the Asics Gel Kayano, a lot of those shoes that are super popular right now, the ones that look like they were a marathon shoe maybe 10 years ago, but people are wearing casually with outfits right now. Okay, so here's the deal. In my opinion, I think it's an excellent shoe to wear. It's super comfortable, looks great with outfits, and it's just a shoe that a lot of people are talking about, right? It's good to wear shoes that are fashion forward and comfortable, and this shoe has both on the list. However, in 10 years time, do I think that this is a shoe or these styles of shoes is something that people are going to be wearing? Some of them, yes, but those more specific running shoes, I just don't see people wearing them. And so for that reason, despite the fact that I love wearing this style of shoe, I'm gonna be putting this at the B tier for the very simple reason that in 10 years time, I just don't think that people are gonna be wearing those. So for that reason, it's going in the B tier. Next up, we have this like puffy shoe trend. Vans New School is a shoe that it has the similar and the same Vans old school DNA, but it's got a much more padded tongue. And really, this shoe mimics skate shoes from the early 2000s. The Adidas Campus 2000 is another shoe that mimics this. Now, I think personally, I love wearing these shoes now, specifically the Vans New School. The added padding, it really lends itself to a very comfortable shoe to wear. However, I just don't think that it's going to last the test of time. So I'm actually going to be putting it in the C tier, despite that, for the fact that right now I love wearing it, but ultimately I just don't know if it has that sort of a longevity from a trend perspective. And I've seen recently there's some terrible, and I mean terrible, colorways of the Vans New School. So I'm putting the puffy sneaker trend in the C category. We have another sort of micro trend here, which is mule sneakers. Okay, there's the Martine Rose Nike Shocks. There's the New Balance 2002 R Mules. I think this is in sort of response to Birkenstock Boston's becoming more and more popular, and other mule shoes becoming very popular. But for me, this is going straight D tier because I feel like this is a shoe that's worn ironically, where it's like it's so ugly that people are sort of putting it into more fashion specific outfits. But when we're talking about mule sneaker trends, this is definitely at the bottom of the list. Okay, so now it's time to talk about Nike Dunks. Okay, Nike Dunks 2-3 years ago were peak popularity. When you think of the pandemic, it was literally the shoe to get. They were selling out. But since then, they've released a ton, and I mean a ton of colorways. But saying that, the Nike Dunk is similar to the Adidas Samba in that it follows such a similar design DNA with like an Air Force One, which is regarded as a classic timeless sneaker. Think about it. It's leather paneling on a shoe with a classic Nike swoosh. And given the history history of the Nike Dunk. I gotta put this in the S tier, and I put the Dusty Olive colorway because I kind of want the shoe. So either way, it's going in the S tier. Next up, let's talk about metallic sneakers. I would say this is more so like a female focused trend that really popped off this year. Despite the fact that the Wales Bonner Adidas Samba is a shoe for both men and women, it was super popular. It was kind of like the TikTok trendy shoe to get back in the summertime. I literally think that this is a shoe trend that will like disappear next year, which is in a few months time. Like, I just don't see this trend lasting past New Year's, basically, because New Year's is oftentimes people wear metallic colored clothing just for the festive season. However, I just don't see this lasting very long, so it's going in the D tier for me. Next up, it's time to talk about Nike SB Jordans, right? One of the biggest and best sneakers of the entire year was the Nike SB Jordan 4, okay? And for good reason, it's an excellent shoe. Now, I think that the Nike SB treatment of Jordan sneakers is something that is pretty significant because they are making very minimal changes to an already good shoe, which I am a big fan of. When you think back at the LA to Chicago, Chicago to LA, whatever they were called, it was just a very standard colorway of an Air Jordan 1 that had the scratch off paint, which was really cool. It was a good idea, right? They kept it to the true DNA. They just make slight and subtle changes. So for that reason, I'm actually going to be putting this in the A tier just because I think that it's a really good foundation that they have, and I think that based off of the success of the Jordan 4s, there's going to be multiple iterations of these. So for right now, I'm going to put it at the A tier just because I'm a big fan and I think that it has a lot of potential. Next up, we have the reimagined Jordan series. We saw the Air Jordan 3s released this year, the Lost and Founds that released last year, and I think that it's an excellent shoe. However, it is not perfect, okay? These latest rendition of the suede Royal Ones is a shoe that is very polarizing. I did a poll yesterday on my Instagram to see if people are interested in buying these, and it was overwhelmingly no. People are going to be skipping this shoe, and I think that there's a number of different reasons that I'll just touch on very briefly. The color, I think, is off. Also, there's so many Jordan 1 colorways that have released recently that I think people personally just don't need another pair of Air Jordan 1s. So, despite the fact that I do like the reimagined when it's done right, maybe the 4s will be a resurgence of that. But I'm going to put that at the A tier just because it has a lot of potential, and the ones that have released so far have been good, but I think it's a slippery slope, so it's not going to be S tier for me. Next up, it's time to talk about Crocs. Now, one of my worst fashion takes was that I told people to stop wearing Crocs. Now, I'm a big fan of the Salehi Bembury Crocs, but I think the general, standard Crocs, I mean, unless you're wearing them around the house, I would never personally wear them out in public. That's just me, especially at the gym. I don't understand why people wear Crocs at the gym. It kind of boggles my mind. Okay, now that's my opinion on that still remains the same. Okay, I'm just not a Crocs guy. However, Crocs are literally the shoe that I see people wear out in public most often. It's shocking. In the gym, casually, okay? Crocs did go away for a very long time, but the creative ones that they're putting out now, I honestly have to tip my hat on. There's a Levi's Croc that's all denim. They did the Cars, and there's just so many fun and creative iterations of it. So for that reason, I'm gonna put the Crocs in the A tier because it is a shoe that I see everybody wearing, and I just don't see it slowing down anytime soon. Okay, next up, it's time to talk about on-cloud shoes, technical runners, okay, Hoka. Hoka is another one of those shoes that you see a ton of people wearing. Same with on-cloud, whether it's in the gym or worn casually. They're worn by sneaker enthusiasts and people who just wanted like a very basic and affordable sneaker. Okay, so there's so much potential with these. There's colorways that are starting to sell out. There's lineups at the on-cloud store in New York, and I just think that this is really the beginning of these sort of independent, sort of technical running sneaker brands that aren't Nike or Adidas, right? So for that reason, I'm also gonna put this at the A tier because I think this is the start of where these companies are at, and I think it's only gonna get better. And so for that reason, I'm putting it at the A tier because there's so much potential. Okay, so now it's time to talk about foam and 3D printed shoes. Now, I think that this is also a category that it's at its beginning, right? I think that the potential for 3D printed shoes is through the roof, and I just don't think that the technology is there yet to create a lot of these shoes at mass, but it's gonna continue to get better and better. And we also just saw that shoe designer Zellerfeld win some, sustainability award for best 3D printed shoe. So I think that for the time being, I definitely gotta put it at the A category because some of these designs are super creative, but I think that creativity like that really does push the boundary of shoes forward. I'm gonna put this at the A tier because I think there's a lot of potential. I think it's just gonna get better over time for sure. Okay, so now it's time to talk about New Balance 550, specifically the ALD collaborations. Now, back in the pandemic, similar to Nike Dunks, this was the it shoe to get. The hype for the shoe has died down a lot recently. However, they're still introducing new colorways of the shoe that are selling out. If you go on the ALD website, they're sold out. You know, similar to Air Force Ones as well, the New Balance 550 is a shoe that it can't really miss, you know? Like, it's a shoe that looks good with outfits. It's a leather paneled sneaker with a colorful N on the side. But also, I just don't think that people are really reaching for this shoe as much as they used to. So for that reason, I'm gonna put it at the B category, which is very respectable, right? It's a shoe that if you wear it, it's great. But if you don't wear it, it's also like you're not really missing out much either. So I think that there's a lot of longevity for the shoe. If people keep wearing it year over year, that's totally fine. I think that the B category is the perfect place for the New Balance 550 and the ALD collaboration. And next up, it's time to talk about Salomon and hiking sneakers. I do think that Salomon as a brand has a lot of potential as well. I think that they're really starting to put out more great lifestyle sneaker models like the Pro Advance, which just did a collaboration with Margiela. So I think that if they continue to do collaborations, there's the Lorenz G Salomon, which is like one of the best sneakers of the entire year, one that goes totally under the radar. It's very polarizing. Some people hate this shoe. They think it's just a flash in the pan. For me specifically though, I love wearing XT6s. Specifically this apricot colorway is very wearable. So honestly, I'm going to be completely honest. I think that B is a great place to put this on the shoe because once again, if you wear it and you like the trend, then cool, you'll love the shoe. But if you don't wear it, you're not really missing out on much. So I'm going to put that shoe in the B category. Okay, so next up, it's time to talk about the Mischief Big Red boots, but not just the Big Red boots, okay? I'm going to be talking about Mischief and brands like Mischief in general, okay? Because ultimately, the Big Red boots was one of the biggest stories of the entire year. Like, if you looked at the trend of sneakers and keywords, I guarantee you the Mischief Big Red boots were way up there because of how much they sort of took over social media. Celebrities were wearing them, athletes were wearing them, they were reselling for crazy prices, and a lot of that hype has completely died down. I think for good reason, right? Because they're Big Red boots, who's going to be wearing them regardless? So one thing I will say though is that they are super creative, okay? The Mischief brand in general, I think, is really doing a lot for sort of art and sneakers and the combination of the both. Whether it's those wavy Vans, whether it's those gobstopper shoes where you can peel back the layers. It is ideas, not just in sneakers, they do a ton of other different creative projects as well. So for that being said, I think that Mischief as a brand, I think it's got to go in the C category because a lot of this stuff isn't super wearable, but I think it is very important because when you have creative people working on shoes and products like this, you push the boundaries of what's possible, okay? And also, they're an independent brand. They're not represented by some big corporation. And in fact, they're oftentimes fighting upwards against these corporations. So I think you need those little guys per se who are super creative and pushing boundaries because it can show you what is capable with footwear. And so I think that C is a good category just because it's important, but it's just not super wearable. That's the list. Let me know what you guys think I got completely wrong. Let me know which ones I should have changed. But ultimately, I think that the list is pretty good. I think that it's very well divided. I think we got something for everybody here. But I would love to know your thoughts. So be sure to let me know in the comments below.